Okay. I think we're there.
All
I think
right.
we've done it.
Yep. 10:05.
Did you have anything
Okay.
else you wanted to add to the agenda?
Uh, oh no, I had actually, oh sorry, yeah, I see you built it out. I did write stuff in the proposed agenda for next meeting stuff. So
Uh,
there's I just threw a bunch of stuff up there too, which is you already have the update infrastructure there. I thought we could potentially discuss some of the breaking changes stuff that we want to
sure.
kind of eventually get to, like the FIP stuff and everything.
Yeah.
Let me copy some of that down below actually here.
Yeah. You might have
Uh,
to talk about some of it again since some of it will come from the other folks, but
that
there's worse
That's
things.
fine. I want to like I'm going to open an issue about these. I just kind of wanted to bring it here first, and then was going to bring an issue into the main repo, so that way everybody can contribute whatever viewpoints and
Perfect.
stuff that they have. And yeah, and I thought we could take a brief look, like at like
Yeah.
at least kind of the stuff that I've put on roadmap as well. So we'll do that. Um, and yeah, yeah, that's it. Okay, but
Cool.
yeah. Those are things. So action items. Do we have action items from last time? I
We
guess.
did. We did. So there was two for me. I only did one of them, which is really about, it's kind of tied into the infrastructure migration to the CFF. That is going if we're able to take the strategy that we're trying to take now, which is really about like a lift and shift, like try to move the project right
Hmm.
into the CFF. It's something that I expect to happen ideally in the next 1 to 2 weeks. So once that would happen, then it really just becomes, getting folks permission to the accounts there, which is much more known and actionable process at that point. If that doesn't happen, it means we'll have to do the hard thing, which is actually move resources right across. Sorry,
Oof.
um, do the engineering that moves and then or recreates the infrastructure.
Yep.
Really, so I'm pretty optimistic on the former.
Good.
So let's not get into the latter until we have to. So that's progressing. I think by ideally by the next time we meet, that'll already have happened, and you and I should at least have access to those things, and then we'll figure out how we want to structure group management so that like other folks might have different kinds of access over time. But right now, as we're kind of like the only maintainer folks, uh, I'm interested in how we want to do access permissions on like different parts of the concourse, you know, GCP project, right? Like, what are the bits that we want to permission people to have the powers to look at and uh remediate or scale or deal with, and what are the things we're like, that should only be for, the working group leads, right? Like maybe the right access to the the buckets or the GCR destinations or something like that, right? Like I don't know,
Yeah.
the assets that end up going out, right? Um, that and CI. So I don't know, we'll figure that out, but getting it into the project first is or into the CFF should happen in the next 2 weeks. If it doesn't, it's because we had to go do it the hard way, and
Ugh.
that just means it takes it then just takes
That's
time. Hard mode takes time. We're trying to use easy mode.
fingers
So
crossed that yeah, the easy mode works because yeah,
yeah,
the other way is that's not going to be fun at all. I can
no,
already think of like a half dozen things that might not even migrate that nicely, especially if we can't keep stuff like bucket names and
yeah,
whatnot.
there's
But
a lot of
anyways, yeah,
lot lot of hard things there. A lot of hard things.
yeah,
Um,
okay,
Ideally, shouldn't have to use them. I did not attempt to scale the PR workers because I've been focusing on some of that transition stuff.
that's fine.
So if we'll review that ideally, like especially once it gets into there, it was just like it'll be an everyone thing. Yeah, so
Yep,
that's kind of
yep,
the state
that's
of
fine.
that.
Cool. Yeah, that's fine. There isn't like again, it would like help eventually, but like can manage for now. It's not blocking anything anyways, especially like I realized like, oh, once I have the release pipeline, then like that's using the main workers anyways, so it wasn't too much an issue. Once I got to that point, it was still slow because I can only get through like in a day I can review so many PRs, but then I was
Yeah.
slowed even further down by the fact
Yep.
that just like a lot of checks just weren't running because they would time out and blah blah blah. Anyways, that's all fine. So yeah, cool. We'll chuck that one down the road. The last item on here was you and I were supposed to chat about the release process. Didn't end up happening. I can tell you nothing's changed release
Yeah.
process wise.
Okay.
Like everything in the checklist is still for the most part true. Actually, I think I forgot to go back and update it because I think there was just like some items that weren't true anymore. Like I think there was like links to like an old project board that doesn't exist anymore and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it was just like small stuff like that that was kind of in there. But the release process hasn't changed that much. The release pipeline continues to work as is. Didn't have to make any changes to that actually, which was nice. So yeah, it was
Awesome.
pretty straightforward. So nothing special there. All right. That's reviewing action items. You gave your update. 7.13. Yep, that got released. Yeah, and there's a patch that I'm gonna push out today for 7.13.1. There weren't any immediate bugs with Concourse itself that anyone's reported, but there
Yep.
was a bug with like the S3 resource that basically made it not usable because the get inputs stop working.
Oh,
We didn't
interesting.
catch, yeah, we didn't catch that one because there are integration tests for the S3 resource type, but
Yeah.
because we're on GCP, I believe when we made that migration, and this is going back to 2 years ago, we don't actually run those integration tests anymore because we don't have any AWS resources. And I don't think we ever tried testing it against like what is it? Whatever the
PCS. Yeah.
it's
It doesn't.
GCS, thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I know GCS has like some level of compatibility
But
with
not. I
S3.
don't think it's enough that you can actually use the S3 resource against it. A lot of folks use a different
Yes.
actual GCS resource, right? Rather than the S3
Correct.
resource. Yep. Yep.
Correct. Yeah, I know I've used S3 resource with other like S3, like I used it with Hetzner. Hetzner worked fine with S3 resource, but yeah. Anyway, so those integration tests weren't happening. They would have immediately caught that bug, but sadly they didn't, and it was fine too. It forced me to like rethink about another part of the resource type, and I ended up deprecating some old stuff that we were doing because this resource that was made back in like 2016, so it was made with conventions at that time, which a lot have dramatically changed. But yeah, so there will be like a patch release, but it's just updating just resource types. That's it. So the S3 resource got an update. The Git resource got a patch update. And I think there was another one as well, actually. What was it? I think it
Yeah. I want to see.
was the registry image had some issue as well. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but the registry image had a minor issue. Oh yeah, I think did it have an authentication issue? I think it did. I think it also had some sort of authentication issue. Yeah, I couldn't
That what
assume
we were
roles
encountering with?
correctly.
Is that what we were encountering? No. You said for the registry image. I was wondering if that
Yeah.
was what we were encountering with the um that initial we were trying to refly things with dispatcher and it was having an issue trying to fetch the registry image for boarding pass. Um
Oh, that actually I can't remember. Well, we ended up just ripping that out. No, yeah, we never
we
figured
just
that
ripped
out.
it
But
out. We cheated. We ran away from it because it wasn't
yeah,
necessary.
yeah, that import estimate wasn't necessary. But yeah, no, it wasn't related to that in
Okay.
any way. A lot of these changes were because like all these resource types were using the version 1 of the Go AWS SDK. I
Got it.
migrate all of them to version 2 because version 1 hits end of life this year. Um, so those were just part of like just that shift, and there was just
Yep.
yeah few things I broke, but thankfully easy fixes.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the only thing that changes in 7.13.1. There's no like main concourse code changes or anything like that.
Great.
Um, but yeah, so that'll come out today as well.
Groovy.
All right. Um, and then yeah, then I just have this list of potential changes that would prompt us to do a version 8 release and some history here.
Yeah.
So version 7 and version 6 of Concourse, they had some very small breaking changes. Like I think when we went to version 7, we got rid of the aggregate step because that was replaced by the in parallel step.
Yep.
so that like we do take the opportunity to make small break changes like that, but those
Yeah,
major version changes are usually because there's like some massive migration, like SQL migration in
yeah,
there.
yeah,
This test migration falls exactly in that category from at least Ivan's PR and the test that those guys have done, which would have been nice if they could have talked to a bit here. But from the details they've shared, it does take like tens of minutes for this migration to run. It's going to depend on like how large your database is and everything. They made a sizable database,
yeah,
with at least like in the tens of millions of records and stuff.
yeah,
And yeah, I think his timing was like 19 minutes for the database that he had made. So it's a big migration. And yeah, so yeah, it's something like that. Just again, historically, version 6, version 7, we had cut those major. At least that's as far back as I can remember. I'd have to look through his notes for the other ones, but that's traditionally
right,
why we've done major version changes. It's usually not like we've made some massive breaking pipeline configuration change. It's
right,
usually just us trying to signal to operators that like, hey, you got to actually like take like a chunk of downtime here.
right, right,
This isn't going to be an easy like flip over. Like upgrading to 713, there's like no migrations for that. So it's like you can just
right,
like whoop, just hot swap it and you're good to go.
right,
Um, but yeah, that one change. That'll
yeah,
change it. The FIPS PR. I want to look at the big end migration because I know that was also a large migration.
right,
Um, but I don't have a lot of context on that. I need to read a bunch of issues and just see what code was left in where and in what state and stuff. I know Ray probably left a bunch of stuff somewhere, but yeah, that'll be another potential big migration. So I want to try and fit both of those in there just so we like the fifth one's just definitely like more of an
yeah,
enhancement stuff,
yeah,
modernizing. The big
yep,
one is just paying down some tech debts and hopefully decreasing the amount of data that we need in the database, not by much, but it'll clean up stuff in our code.
yep,
And then there is just some basic defaults I want to change, like the put step. Like by default, we stream all inputs to it, which is
yep,
usually not necessary. And yeah, we just want to change that to default instead to just detect what inputs you have, which is a feature that's already been Concourse for, I think it got introduced like version 6 or something like that. So it's been around for a while. It's pretty well tested. Most of our pipelines use it everywhere, and if they don't, I'm usually trying to go back and like update them to use it because it's just so efficient by
hmm,
comparison. It saves you so much time. And then just saying containerd as the default runtime. Want to make that change. Definitely
fractional,
with, yeah, yeah, just that's where most of the effort's going. Like even this last release, we got people making PRs to our containerd runtime code and stuff. So that's where that action is happening. So we want to just continue to make sure that people are using that and yeah, it's pretty stable overall too. So because we've been using it now for such a long time.
yeah,
So yeah,
no, okay, for sure.
that's kind of it. But yeah,
Cool.
any immediate thoughts, questions about that?
No, no, that all makes sense.
Cool.
Version 8. Do you have a timeline that we want to kind of like get through some of those things to get to that point? Of trying to bring those in and cut version 8? Or um like do you want to let 17.3 like 713 sit for a minute and see if there's other things that come up so that it's easy enough for us to get those in and get those fixes onto the um the stable branch before we start forcing folks through 8 to get additional fixes kind of vibe.
Yeah, yeah. I do want to kind of like sit in, like yes, sit on the 713 release and see what kind of stuff we get in because I know a lot of people won't like upgrade potentially until they get their own like upgrade window within their company.
Right.
So yeah, definitely do just want to wait. Like I know if you read the Central CI blog post that one of my co-founders wrote, he talked about like doing it like late summer or something like that. I don't know if we'll go that late or anything, but I'm like, yeah, probably at least like wait like 2, 3 months at minimum and
Yep.
then go from there. So even
Right.
like some of these PRs might not even like merge them right away just in case there is some like big bug and we want to get that out and not force everyone through a major version upgrade.
Sure.
Then we won't necessarily do that. But yeah. Um,
That makes sense.
but yeah,
I just wanted to see if we were aligned on that. I was like, I think that makes sense to do. If we have very strong or different opinions on that, let's talk about
we'll
that
talk
then.
about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
No, no,
no,
no.
that
We'll
sounds
like
good.
Yeah, we'll sit and wait. And plus, it'd be nice to also, because like some of these don't take too much effort, like especially changing the default of put inputs to detect takes like no time. Same with changing the default runtime container ID. Like I can do both of those in like less than an hour. It takes no
Yep.
time. The two PRs will just take a bit more consideration, but relatively also don't take that much time.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and so might want to, actually do some other feature work in the meantime, as well as the, yeah, whatever bug fixes people end up finding. So yeah.
Perfect. Cool.
All right, cool. Roadmap. Yeah, we can take a quick look at the roadmap. And I guess again, this is like, it's really only like me working on this and whoever ends up picking it up, which other people have picked up stuff
Yeah.
actually. Like
Yeah.
someone actually ended up making a PR upgrading the rest of the AWS SDK Go stuff. So that was really cool to see.
Awesome.
But yeah, you can see in progress there at the top right now for me is just 7.13.1, making that patch release.
Yep.
Um, and then kind of, yeah, in the backlog there, the next thing that I really want to work on is just getting ARM binaries made,
Yeah.
which requires going through the resource types, getting those cross-compiling to ARM, and then can actually like start shipping like a Concourse ARM binary with all the resource types and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thing that I'm probably going to start working in the short term as well. And then at one point, I want to review some of the RFCs because there's some cool features in there. I know
Okay.
I've already like I guess months ago now at this point, closed a couple of them. Like I think
Yeah.
anything related to Kubernetes runtime stuff, I was like, yeah, that's not happening anytime soon. But there's a couple RFCs open there, but maybe
Okay.
that can be something we can review, maybe actually on like the next meeting, maybe.
That's
We
great.
can, yeah,
Let's do for
yeah,
review open RCs.
yeah.
Great.
'Cause I know I've had people pinging me about that as well,
Okay.
wondering what's happening with them. Most of them, like I've usually looked at them and I've said like, if you want to try implementing it, like go for it. That's kind of been my general message to the
Yeah,
community.
it's like if we don't have a reason that we disagree with the concept or the whatever, it's like yes, of course. But execution capacity limited, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, exactly.
yeah,
But it's been nice. There've been like people have been making PRs and stuff. It's been really, really nice to see, even just like not even in just the main Concourse repo as well, but even like some of the resource types and stuff as well. But yeah,
awesome.
um, yeah. Any of those top things in the backlog there? Oh yeah, there's that containerd task execution one. That one's just waiting on a new container networking plugin release. So
Mm,
that's kind of where that at the bottom of that post where it says from Concourse maintainers. I linked to like a couple things.
hmm.
Um, but yeah, at this point, CNI they got their fix in. So the upstream issue that this guy Saj opened,
Yeah.
it has been closed in CNI because they've
Okay.
accepted a PR that fixes the issue. We just need
Awesome.
them to cut a new release and then we can start taking that in. So even everywhere right now in like even 7.13, I made sure. Well, actually, I initially forgot, but thankfully before the release went out, I did remember this issue, and so I ended up pinning CNI back to I think it's like one, but it's the latest 1.5 release that
Yeah.
they had. But yeah, their last release is still 1.6.2 from January, so they haven't made a new release
Okay.
since then. So just waiting on that one, then that'll be easy fix. Yeah, and then yeah, what else do we have here? That's just container D. Yeah, adding ptrace. Yeah, that was the thing actually that changed in 7.13 as well. Ended up being last minute change. Um, because we actually, yeah, or I found out that our SecCom profile was significantly different from upstream, Docker, Containerd, Podman. Like you look at any of the other big like container runtime
Yeah.
um, players, and a lot of them, their SecCom profiles like continue to advance with like new Linux 6 calls that have been coming out since like version 6 of Linux.
Okay.
Um, we hadn't not kept pace with that. Ideally, we would have a job similar to like another one where we check like Docker mounts uh,
Sure.
that Docker makes. But I haven't thought about how to do that yet. But
How to
anyways,
follow that?
for,
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, for now, I did like a quick and dirty analysis of just like what's in our SciComm profile, what's in the container, or ended up looking specifically at Docker's SciComm
Yeah.
profile, which they also just take their SciComm profile apparently from Containerd. Um,
Hmm.
So I just looked at that, did a quick and dirty, like what did they have in like their allow list, and I basically just added everything that we were missing. I think it was something around like 40 to 60 syscalls. So added
Oh
a
wow.
bunch.
Yeah,
There was a couple other that I missed, like this P trace one, because they were in like other sections in their SecCom profile, in like just the
lumping
way,
them together.
yeah,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah,
yeah, just the way the data was structured. Like most of their allowed syscalls are like in this one like big kind of like JSON data block, but there's other ones. I didn't look at those ones, and this was one of the ones that fell in that because it had like extra case conditional stuff, specifically what this guy mentioned on it. It has a bunch of checks to see like, are you meaning this minimum kernel version, which we don't necessarily care about. So that's
yeah.
what this kind of here to like add probably like ptrace and any other ones that probably fall under this category here. So yeah.
I wonder if we could have a job that can you just interrogate the container like after you start it to like spit out a list? Like, can we have something that just it
Yeah,
spits out a list
that's
and then
yeah, that's the kind of check that I was talking about that we do with like the Docker mounts, for example. Like we do that where we like check like what mounts Docker makes versus
yeah,
like what we make. And then if
yeah,
there's a diff, we the job errors, which signals us to go look at it. I want to do something similar to that.
yeah,
And definitely Docker makes it easy.
yeah.
Because like they actually have everything in like a JSON file, like their SecCom profiles in a JSON profile. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's a piece of cake. Um,
Mhm.
to do a comparison against. The problem is actually on our end right now because our SecCom profile is actually just in Go code.
Yeah,
Um, so it's like, okay, how do I extract that? I could probably write like a tiny little Go script actually that probably just loads their JSON file and that just looks at like what's in our like the array that we basically end up making and just compare the diff there. So I can probably do something like that. But yeah, I want to get that because I don't want to do this manual comparison every time. It's easier if a job just tells me like, "Hey, Docker added thesis calls," and I'm like, "Okay, cool, yeah, let's see, should we add
yeah.
them? Should we not?" Yeah,
Yeah, is there, yeah, and how would, how are we gonna like track over time, like essentially kind of like a CVE triage, right? Of like, yeah, we want to intentionally not bring in this thing. Please don't remind me that I don't match them right on this system.
yeah,
I want it.
yeah, yep. It's true because even like I was trying to find out originally like how did we come to this list? How did we decide
Yeah,
on
yeah.
these things? I
Okay.
had, yeah, and like it took me not too much time, but like eventually found like the git commit that added it, and like the answer to that question was actually like, oh, we just took this from the Garden runtime, folks. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then, but I didn't go farther there, right? I was like, I guess I could go through the Garden repo and try and figure out like how did those guys decide on those syscalls? But I was like, ah, it's fine. I'm like, we'll just like, yeah, do something like what we both just described here. Just have a
Okay.
job that does the comparison for us, and then yeah. All right, but yeah, that's
Awesome.
that guy. Everything no SAS, you kind of consider that icebox, but kind of stuff
Yep.
that like you could easily like priority shift. Like there's one like I can see there's one that says material design icons, brand icons deprecated. Like I'm probably not
Yep.
going to get to that anytime soon and stuff like that. But yeah, that's all just
Awesome.
icebox stuff. So I
Great.
won't worry about that right now. But yeah, that's kind of all the main stuff on the roadmap right now.
Perfect. Perfect.
Cool.
Anything else
Anything
you need?
else?
No,
That's a no then.
no, nothing for now. Hopefully, I mean, there's the one thing, the one action item I added was just with the are there any other, so I know we don't have Mac runners anymore. I'm confident that CFF doesn't have Mac boxes or something like that for us to run off of, but I added an item to check if there's an AWS account that we could use for our S3 resource testing. Because probably have one in the CFF, but it'd be good to get some of that basic, and it's cheap, right? Like I'm not worried about
Yeah,
it. It's not going to be an expensive set of integration tests, right? By any
no.
stretch. So um, I added that to the list of things so that see if we can revive that test suite
Cool.
there.
Also, I actually did notice one thing when I was doing the 713 release that you just reminded me of.
Yeah.
Because I think I just heard you say Mac. Um, because I feel I believe we were both under the impression that there were no like Mac workers attached to the CI cluster, but there is
They're still
one
there.
Mac. There
They
is
could
is
go
still
away
one.
at any moment. So we remove like as in like they are not there's no billing attached to them anymore. So
So no one knows who's paying for this server, basically.
um we know that the
Because
credit card that's paying for the server that we also still can't cancel the account on for all sorts of reasons. Like as in we don't have
okay,
the permissions to the account to go cancel them kind of thing. Um
okay,
So it's there, but we remove the testing and the usage of them, right? Like
yes,
there's nothing in the pipeline that tries to use them because their existence is dubious and uh, you know
yeah, yeah,
uh,
extremely dubious. The only reason I bring it up is because when I was trying to use Dispatcher to update production, the job that does the Terraform apply, um,
still
it
references them, doesn't it?
it still references them. I initially tried to do quick and dirty, pull it out, but then I was getting like Terraform, like init, like errors and stuff. And then I was like, oh my, and then yeah, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna revert that thing that I tried to do. Like it deploys it, it just ends up airing out because it's like, man, that's a really old Mac. Homebrew doesn't like actually want to work on it anymore and stuff. So I was like, okay, yeah,
Okay, so there's some
it,
work to rip that out, and that's fine.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
okay,
it's fine.
yeah, good, 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 good. Thank you for reminding me. Honestly, we kind of just expected them to disappear, right? Given the conditions, it's like, yeah, it's not. It's like, of course,
Yeah.
no one's paying for those things, so they should just disappear.
Yeah, but
But they have
it's
not.
still it's still there somehow. But okay, cool.
Awesome,
Yeah, that's it then.
awesome. All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, Tyler.
Yep, you too.
See you. Bye.
Bye.